The walls of my bedroom turned transparent as my father's words sliced through the air. "Yes, I'm taking you to your grandfather's house. You can't live with us anymore." His face, the same face that used to light up when I walked into a room, now refused to meet my eyes. Behind him, Olivia leaned against the doorframe, her crimson lips curled into a smile I'd recognize anywhere. Victory. "Dad, please." My voice cracked as I stared at the suitcases he'd already packed. My books, photos, even my mother's locket, all crammed haphazardly inside, like trash being cleared out. What did I do wrong? Tell me what I did wrong and I'll fix it. "Nothing, Natalie." His jaw tightened. "Olivia doesn't want you here. She hates children. I need to keep her happy." My legs gave out before I realized what was happening. I sank to the edge of my bed. The bed where Mom used to read me stories, where Dad had promised me after her funeral that we'd always be a team. 5 years of memories in this house, and he had reduced them to 2 suitcases in less than an hour. My name is Natalie. I'm 17, and this is the story of how I made my father realize exactly what he threw away. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The changes started gradually after Mom died from cancer when I was 12. Dad stopped talking about her, the photos disappeared from the walls, and then Olivia appeared, first as Dad's friend from work, then as the woman who stayed for breakfast. What I didn't know then was that their relationship had started before Mom's final hospital stay. While I was holding Mom's hand through chemotherapy sessions, Dad was holding Olivia's across restaurant tables. Years later, Grandpa reluctantly told me the truth after finding old text messages on Mom's phone. 6 months after we buried Mom, Dad married Olivia in a courthouse ceremony. I wasn't invited. "Your father needs to move on," Olivia told me that evening, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness as she unpacked her clothes in my mother's closet. "And frankly, seeing you every day isn't helping. You look too much like her." At first, it was just comments, little jabs designed to make me feel unwelcome in my own home. This house would be so much more peaceful without a teenager stomping around. "Aaron, doesn't Natalie have friends she could stay with this weekend? Do we really need to keep attending her school events? No one's watching." When I confronted her, she'd smile that plastic smile and say, "You're so sensitive, Natalie. I'm just trying to help your father heal." Dad never defended me. Each time Olivia suggested I was a burden, he'd stare at his plate or suddenly find his phone fascinating. The man who once checked under my bed for monsters now couldn't even look at me when his new wife called me an inconvenience. And then came that afternoon, the suitcases, the stammered explanations, the car ride to Grandpa Roy's house, where Dad barely slowed down before driving away. "He'll come back," Grandpa assured me, his weathered hand steady on my shoulder as we watched Dad's car disappear. "Once he realizes what he's done, he'll come back." But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. My calls went unanswered. My texts received brief, distant replies. Eventually, Grandpa took Dad to court for child support. After a quick court process where Dad readily signed over his rights, Grandpa became my legal guardian. The money came, but Dad still didn't. On my 13th birthday, I waited by the window all day. Grandpa made my favorite chocolate cake, and we left the porch light on until midnight. Dad sent a gift card with Olivia's handwriting on the envelope. When I was 14, I tried one last time. I took 3 buses to reach our old house, my house, and pressed the doorbell with shaking fingers. Dad opened the door, his face draining of color when he saw me standing there. "Natalie, you should have called first," he said, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "I did, 10 times last month," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "Can I come in?" "Please, Dad. I miss you." He stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "Now's not a good time, honey. Olivia's not feeling well." From inside, I heard her voice. "Aaron, who is it?" "No one important," he called back, and something inside me shattered. The conversation that followed burns in my memory like acid. Dad standing on the porch of my childhood home, explaining that he was going to terminate his parental rights, that it would be better for everyone if Grandpa Roy became my legal guardian, that Olivia needed him more than I did. "Dad, please don't do this," I whispered, fighting to keep my voice from breaking. "How can you abandon me like this? I'm your daughter." He couldn't meet my eyes. "Grandpa Roy is rich, Natalie. He'll give you a better life than I can. I can't have my money going toward you anymore. Olivia, she needs me more." I walked away before he could see me cry. On the bus ride back to Grandpa's, I made 2 promises to myself. I would never again ask for my father's love, and I would never forget what he and Olivia had done. Grandpa put me in therapy. Slowly, I rebuilt my life. I made friends at my new school. I joined the debate team. I learned to smile again, even if certain songs or smells could still ambush me with grief for what I'd lost. Not just Mom, but the dad who died right alongside her, replaced by a stranger with the same face. The next 3 years passed with me focusing on school and healing, while Dad made only perfunctory birthday calls. Even though I blocked Dad's number after that day on the porch, he kept creating new email accounts to reach me for these obligatory greetings. Then, 2 weeks after my 17th birthday, Olivia showed up at Grandpa's house. I was alone, working on a history paper, when the doorbell rang. There she stood, as polished and poised as ever, holding a small cardboard box. "Hello, Natalie," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "I came to drop off some of your things. They were in the attic, and now that you're not Aaron's child anymore, I don't want to keep any remnants." I maintained a neutral expression as I accepted the box. Inside were photo albums my mother had made, childhood drawings, and the Christmas ornaments Mom and I had crafted together. "Thanks for bringing these, Olivia," I said calmly. "I hope you and Dad have a good life now. You finally got what you always wanted. I won't bother you anymore." Something flickered across her face. Disappointment? She'd expected tears, begging perhaps. When none came, she switched tactics. "Oh, I'm pretty happy already, Natalie," she said, examining her manicured nails. "I also hope you've given up on any expectations of inheritance. Aaron won't give you anything, and I certainly won't let him." I tilted my head. "What inheritance? Dad doesn't have anything significant." Her smile widened, revealing too many teeth. "Your dad doesn't, but your grandfather does. He'll be giving Aaron all his assets when he passes. Won't be long now, you know. Roy is getting quite old." The calculated cruelty of her visit suddenly became clear. She hadn't come to return my belongings. She'd come to twist the knife. "Once he dies," she continued, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper, "you'll be evicted from this house too. We might let you stay until you're 18, but after that you're on your own." I couldn't help it, I laughed. Her expectation that Grandpa would leave everything to Dad was so disconnected from reality that it was genuinely funny. Grandpa Roy despised Olivia and had made no secret of his disappointment in Dad. Olivia's smile faltered. "What's so amusing?" "Nothing," I said, struggling to keep a straight face, "just thinking about the future." What Olivia didn't know was that Grandpa Roy had entered the house minutes before her arrival. He'd been in the kitchen, hearing every word of our conversation. As Olivia finished her threats about my future homelessness, he stepped into the entryway. "What's going on here, Olivia?" His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "I believe I told you not to bother my granddaughter in my house." Olivia startled, her hand flying to her throat. "Roy, I was just returning some of Natalie's things." I looked at Grandpa. She was explaining how I shouldn't expect any inheritance and that she'd kick me out of this house once it's theirs. Grandpa's eyes narrowed. "And why on earth would you think you'd get this house, Olivia?" She recovered quickly, smoothing her expression. "You'll give your assets to Aaron, of course. He is your only son." The laugh that burst from Grandpa was so genuine, it made me smile despite everything. We exchanged a look that clearly confused and irritated Olivia. "Why are you two laughing at me?" she demanded. "I didn't say anything wrong. Aaron is Roy's son and should get everything, including this house." Grandpa sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "You have some wild expectations, Olivia. I knew you married my son for what you thought he'd eventually inherit. I also know Aaron tricked you into believing he'd ultimately own all my assets." His expression hardened. "He wasn't wrong then, but he certainly is now." "What do you mean?" Olivia's voice had lost its confidence. Nothing has changed. He will still get his inheritance. "Here's some news for you, Olivia," Grandpa said, his voice measured and calm. "Aaron won't be getting any of my assets. He has shown exactly how worthless he is as a father and as a man. I won't leave him anything of value. I have someone else in mind for that." The color drained from Olivia's face. "That can't be true. You're bluffing. There's no way you'd give your inheritance to someone else. You'll give your assets to your own blood." "I do have blood relations besides Aaron," Grandpa replied, placing a hand on my shoulder. "And I've already decided who will get all of my assets. So perhaps you should stop dreaming and start working, because once I'm gone, you'll be the ones without a home." Olivia's composure cracked completely. "You can't do this to us. Nothing is set in stone. Just wait until Aaron hears about this. This isn't the end of the discussion." She stormed out, the door slamming behind her with enough force to rattle the windows. Grandpa and I looked at each other, both knowing what would come next. Olivia would tell Dad and they'd be back, demanding what they believed was rightfully theirs. "I'd better call your father," Grandpa said grimly, pulling out his phone. "They need to hear this directly from me before they create more drama." That evening, they arrived together. Grandpa had called Dad immediately after Olivia left, demanding they come discuss what happened. Dad had left work early to drive to Grandpa's house, a clear indication of how important the inheritance was to them. Olivia smirked at me as they entered, while Dad's face was flushed with anger. "What the hell, Dad?" he started, not bothering with greetings. "You told Olivia you won't leave me anything." Grandpa nodded calmly. "That's right. You won't be getting anything of value. In fact, I doubt what you receive will even qualify as an inheritance." "You can't do that to me," Dad's voice rose. "I'm your son, your only heir. I deserve all your assets. How can you say you won't leave me anything?" "I won't leave you anything because you've proven yourself to be a vile, selfish person," Grandpa replied, his voice steady but cold. "My only solace is that I discovered your true nature before finalizing my will." Olivia stepped forward, her face a mask of indignation. "How can you talk to your son like that, Roy? You're a father. Have you ever considered Aaron's feelings?" "Has Aaron ever considered Natalie's feelings?" Grandpa countered. "Why should I show fatherly love to someone who abandoned his own daughter?" "That's a separate issue, Dad," my father insisted. "It has nothing to do with my inheritance. I don't even understand why Natalie is part of this discussion." I'd been silent until then, watching the performance unfold. "Grandpa asked me to be here, Dad. I have no interest in inheritance discussions. I have no expectations from anyone about anything." "Natalie has every reason to be here, Aaron," Grandpa said firmly. "She might not be your daughter anymore, but she is still my granddaughter." He paused, looking directly at my father. "Natalie is here because she is the one who will inherit all my assets." The silence that followed was absolute. I froze, genuinely shocked by Grandpa's declaration. I'd known he planned to disinherit Dad, but I hadn't expected this. Dad and Olivia exploded simultaneously. "You can't be serious, Roy." Olivia's voice rose to a near shriek. "Natalie is just a child, and she's a girl. She has no right to inherit all your assets. Your son should get everything." "Dad, how can you do this to me?" Dad shouted, his face contorted with rage and disbelief. "What has Natalie done that I haven't? You're choosing her over your own son." "Yes, Aaron," Grandpa said, his voice cutting through their protests. "I'm choosing Natalie over my son, just like you chose a gold digger over your daughter." "I chose Olivia because I love her," Dad shot back. "Natalie is only part of my past. I don't even think of her as my daughter anymore." His words hit me like physical blows, but I kept my face neutral. I'd long suspected this was how he felt, but hearing it stated so baldly still hurt more than I'd expected. "That's exactly why you won't get anything, Aaron," Grandpa said, disappointment heavy in his voice. "It shames me to think I raised such an entitled, selfish man. I'm not even dead, and your wife is already planning to kick Natalie out of this house. You should be ashamed of yourself." "You can give Natalie everything, but I won't let it happen," Dad threatened, desperation entering his voice. "I'll get a lawyer." In response, Grandpa walked to his desk and removed several documents from the top drawer. "I've prepared everything, Aaron. All my assets will go to Natalie. You'll receive just enough money that you can't contest the will. There's no use trying." "This can't be happening," Dad said, staring at the papers. "You've already made a will? What about our house? Will you give that to Natalie too?" "Yes, I will," Grandpa confirmed. "It's my property, and I'll decide who gets it." He paused, seeming to consider something. "Since I'm feeling generous today, I'll give you a condition. There's one way I might leave you the house you currently live in." Dad's expression shifted instantly from anger to hope. "What do I have to do? Tell me. I'll do anything." "If Natalie forgives you for your actions," Grandpa said, "I might leave you something. But first, you and Olivia have to apologize to her and beg for her forgiveness." Olivia stepped back as if she'd been slapped. "You can't be serious. We're not doing that, Aaron. I'm not apologizing or begging." They both turned to me, Olivia looking panicked while Dad remained silent. The struggle was written plainly on their faces, the humiliation of apologizing versus the prospect of losing everything. I'd spent years imagining this moment, the day my father would regret abandoning me, the day Olivia would face consequences for her cruelty. But now that it was here, I felt nothing but exhaustion. No satisfaction, no vindication, just bone-deep weariness at the knowledge that even now they saw me only as an obstacle or a means to an end. "Grandpa," I said quietly, "there's no need to ask them to apologize. I know they're struggling with it, and frankly, I don't want their apology. I will never forgive them, so there's no point." "If Natalie doesn't want to forgive you," Grandpa said with finality, "then there's no other option. It seems my will won't be changing after all." "No, wait!" Dad stepped forward, panic overtaking his features. "We want to apologize to Natalie. Please forgive us. We shouldn't have treated you like that. I just wanted to leave my past behind, so I didn't want to take care of you." "Don't even try, Dad," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I know Olivia made you choose, but I did nothing to deserve how you treated me. You were supposed to be my father. I was supposed to feel loved by you. You're a poor excuse for a parent." "Don't say that, Natalie," Dad pleaded. "Look, I'm trying to be better here. You're being unreasonable." He turned desperately to his wife. "Even Olivia will apologize to you, right, Olivia?" Olivia's lips thinned, but she managed a tight smile. "Yes, sorry, Natalie. Let's just try again. Who knows, we could even be best friends." I couldn't help it. I laughed. The sound was hollow, even to my own ears. "Don't make me laugh, Olivia. You hated me and wanted me gone from the moment you moved in. You and Dad have treated me like garbage for years. You abandoned me and left me here." My voice thickened with years of suppressed pain. "I'm alive because of Grandpa. You're only apologizing because you need Grandpa's money. I will never forget what you did, and I will never forgive either of you." The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. I left the room before they could see how deeply they still had the power to hurt me. As I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, I heard Grandpa's voice rise in anger, berating them both until they finally left. Later, he found me in my room, curled on my bed. Without a word, he sat beside me and held me while I cried. He ordered my favorite pizza and stayed with me until I'd eaten something. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed constantly with messages from Dad and Olivia, alternating between guilt trips, insults, and more desperate pleas for forgiveness. Grandpa saw the messages and grew even more resolved. Within weeks, he had transferred all his property to my name and appointed my Aunt Julia as my legal guardian in case anything happened to him before I turned 18. Grandpa's lawyer has already set up the trust fund that will transfer to me when I turn 18 next month. I'd always known Grandpa owned the house Dad and I lived in. Mom had mentioned it whenever Dad complained about repairs. Dad had always relied on Grandpa's properties and financial support, working only part-time at an insurance office. They showed up again, of course. This time, there was no anger, only desperation. "Please don't kick us out, Dad," my father begged. "Where will we go?" You know I don't have a good job and Olivia doesn't work. We'll be homeless." "You should have thought about that before neglecting your daughter," Grandpa replied coldly. "We take care of our family, Aaron, and those who don't have no place in my life. Besides, I've already transferred the house to Natalie, so it's up to her now." Dad turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Natalie, please don't do this. Talk to your grandfather. Tell him to reconsider. You don't want to see your father homeless, do you?" "You can't just kick out your father, Natalie," Olivia added. "How can you be so cruel? You're depriving him of your love and support." I looked at them both, really looked at them, for the first time in years. Dad's hair had more gray now. Olivia's perfect makeup couldn't hide the worry lines around her mouth. They were strangers to me, these people who had once been my family. "Yes, I am being cruel," I said quietly. "Just like when you kicked me out of your home, Dad. I'm going to be exactly as cruel to you as you were to me." "We know we messed up," Dad said desperately, "but this can be fixed. I didn't even want to kick you out. It's just that Olivia didn't want a teenager in the house. Why don't you come live with us? That way we can be a family again. Families don't kick each other out." "I don't consider either of you my family," I said, each word deliberate and clear. "You terminated your rights as a parent, Dad. You left me with Grandpa because you wanted to focus on your new family. Olivia became your priority over me. You did everything she wanted. This is on you and Olivia for being such an evil stepmother. Don't contact me again. Only Grandpa is my family now." They left that day, and I thought it was the end. But life has a way of continuing long after the climactic moments of confrontation. Dad and Olivia were evicted as planned and now live in a small apartment across town, where Dad continues his insurance job. In the months that followed, Dad reached out occasionally. His messages changed over time. First they were angry, then pleading, and finally resigned. He told me his marriage was falling apart. He and Olivia fought constantly now. Their financial struggles had taken a toll, and Olivia's tantrums were affecting his mental health. I simply responded that he should consider therapy. Last week, Dad texted that he was divorcing Olivia. Since he owned nothing and had little income, she wouldn't get much from the settlement. They were separating, and Olivia was furious about having to find a job. Dad would pay alimony, but Olivia would have to work to support herself. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago, ending their toxic marriage officially. Though Dad has tried to reconcile since the divorce, I've maintained my distance, responding only with brief texts confirming I'm safe and healthy. I didn't respond to his message about the divorce finalization. Just 2 weeks after Dad's text about the divorce, I stood on the graduation stage as valedictorian. Grandpa sat in the front row, cheering louder than anyone when I walked across the stage. My friends' parents invited us to the celebration dinner afterward. No one mentioned the empty chair where a father should have been. As I look toward college next fall, I sometimes wonder about the parallel life I might have had. One where Mom didn't get sick, where Dad remained the person I thought he was, where Olivia never entered our lives. But those thoughts serve no purpose now. I am not defined by what I lost, but by what I built from the wreckage. I have Grandpa, who showed me what unconditional love truly means. I have friends who know my whole story and love me anyway. I have a future that belongs entirely to me. I'll be attending Stanford in the fall, studying psychology with the full scholarship I earned, plus the security of Grandpa's inheritance. And sometimes that feels like the greatest revenge of all. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.